Up until their Week 11 bye last year, the Arizona Cardinals were looking like one of the better teams in the NFC. They had just reeled off 4 straight wins, they had a 6-4 record, and they were looking at the final 7 games on their schedule with only one of those teams boasting a winning record. However, after that Week 11 bye, the team somewhat fell off of a proverbial cliff coming out of their break. They dropped 5 of their first 6 games coming off the bye and ultimately found themselves well on the outside looking in on the playoff picture. Now, even though last year saw a pretty disappointing finish with their record, the Arizona Cardinals at least found 2 weapons on the offensive side of the ball for what looks like a long time. Trey McBride led the team with 111 receptions as well as 1,146 receiving yards, while Marvin Harrison Jr. as a rookie led the team with 8 receiving touchdowns. McBride's season gave him the most receptions for a tight end in franchise history, and so far in Cardinals history, the only guys to have more touchdowns as a rookie are Anquan Boldin and Larry Fitzgerald. Even with all of that being said, these 2 guys had statistical years as a whole that were great, but there were things that somewhat underscored those seasons as well. McBride did not have a single receiving touchdown until Week 17. Now, I'm not sure if this is really something or if it's nothing, but it is worth noting that in McBride's 3-year career so far, he has never had a touchdown before Week 13 in any season. Moving on to Marvin Harrison Jr., there just were too many games where he was essentially a no-show. His debut game where he had 1 catch for 4 yards, a divisional matchup against a depleted San Francisco squad where he had 2 catches on 7 targets, and many other games throughout the year where it just did not seem like the same guy that was highly coveted as a generational type receiver and someone that was drafted as the number 4 overall pick. Now, yes, he was a rookie last year, but I think the Cardinals really wanted to try to sneak into the playoffs, especially after that 6-4 start. And the fact that after the bye week, Marvin Harrison was essentially averaging a measly 4 catches for 55 yards, that production is really not something that going forward he is going to be able to be relying on to be considered worthy of that high draft selection. Offensively, I do think the most underrated aspect of the Arizona Cardinals in the 2024 season was that Kyler Murray started and played through all 17 games last year. This was the first season he has done that in about 4 years. Now, statistically, I wouldn't say that Kyler Murray had a great year for the Cardinals. And with all of the talk I just had about how Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride have things statistically you want to be better, those statistics would naturally be better if Kyler Murray were to step it up just a little bit. This is a quarterback in Kyler Murray who has never had a year with 4,000 passing yards. He's never had more than 26 passing touchdowns in a season. And in the years where Kyler Murray has played all of, or at least close to all of the season, he has never had less than 10 interceptions. So while it was great to see him play a full year last year, especially given that it was the first full season he was able to play coming off a torn ACL, it does not look like there has been much of a progression. The good thing is that the guy isn't even 28 yet. And it still looks like his ability to run the ball, even coming off of that torn ACL, is still something that can cause havoc for defenses. And with it being the third year of Drew Petzing being his offensive coordinator, this hopefully will be the year where we see Kyler Murray take off. Now, there's very little changing with the offense this year from the offseason. I think the only thing that the Cardinals really want different personnel-wise from last year is a healthy offensive line. Froholt and Brown both played almost every single snap for this team last year, but starting offensive tackles Paris Johnson and Kelvin Beachum both missed big chunks of the year. There was a bit of a revolving door on the interior between guys like Isaiah Adams, Tristan Colon-Castillo, Jonah Williams, and Will Hernandez. Even with this, it still makes it pretty impressive that the Cardinals had a great running game last year. They were top 10 in terms of yards and yards per attempt, and it was highlighted by the second straight 1,000-yard season from James Conner. Now moving on to the defense, a group that was a bit on the weaker side last year. I mean, you look at somebody like Zaven Collins, who for the first time in his 4-year career as an Arizona Cardinal was asked to move from his inside linebacker spot to more of an edge rusher role. And he ended up leading the entire team in sacks with 5. Somehow, this team ended up having the 7th lowest pressures in the entire league. They had the fourth lowest amount of QB knockdowns. They had the 7th lowest amount of QB hits. Yet, somehow, spectacularly, this team was 13th in the league in sacks. So even though they really did not generate many opportunities to hit the quarterback, when they got those opportunities, they did a pretty good job of executing on them. You can't talk about this defense without bringing up Budda Baker, a guy who should have been in the running for Defensive Player in the Year a lot more than I think he was. Setting his career high with a combined tackle number of 164. He had his career high as well in tackles for loss with 10. And he still showed that he is at the very, very top of not only his game, but when you consider, again, the top safeties in the entire league, Budda Baker should not be anywhere but near the top of that conversation. And for good reason. The Cardinals have shown no interest in trading the longtime All-Pro. And to be honest, I don't really know what the right package would be. At this point, no team would really feel comfortable trading a first-round pick for Budda Baker, but that's probably pretty close to what he is worth. We've had a few years now where it seems like there's been rumblings of maybe it's going to happen. Maybe he's actually going to get traded from Arizona. But again, like I just said, I just don't see how, as valuable of a player as he is, I just don't think teams around the league would be comfortable giving up that value for a safety. Now, this defense was in major need of some additions during the offseason, and I give a lot of credit to general manager Monty Awesome for getting the job done. Signing guys like Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Calais Campbell give the Cardinals some veteran presence, while young pass rushers and rookies like B.J. Ojolari, Dante Stills, Chop Robinson, Walter Nolan, and Jordan Birch hopefully can become solid contributors as well. I feel like this influx of talent through the draft and free agency probably means a return to a more traditional linebacker role for Zaven Collins. However, if he turns into the next Zach Bond or Andrew Van Ginkel, I think that's something that Arizona would be very lucky to have. The Arizona Cardinals don't have the worst looking schedule in the world. You start off with your first 7 weeks before the bye with your toughest game maybe being against the Green Bay Packers at home. But other than that, you have New Orleans and Carolina to start the year. You have Seattle, Tennessee, and Indianapolis. Those are 5 teams that really don't have a solidified quarterback position. Even with Sam Darnold being signed to Seattle after the year he had, I wouldn't say that that's solidified more than maybe after this year. You come out of the bye with a game at Dallas and at Seattle, and then you see a pretty tough schedule after that with a lot of teams who either won their division or were in a playoff race last year. So I think Arizona, if they're able to kind of replicate how last year went for them, where they can get out hot, but they can actually parlay that into a full season of playing well, if finally Kyler Murray takes off, if finally this offensive line stays healthy, if finally there's a consistent pass rush that can bring the quarterback down more than just once a game, this is going to be a playoff team. This is going to be a team pushing for the NFC West title. This is going to be a team that could win a playoff game or two. And with somebody like Kyler Murray, who I still have all the hope and belief in that can become a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I think this is a team capable of going 11-6. Again, I think this is a team capable of winning a somewhat weaker NFC West. And this is a team capable of making a very good run in the playoffs. The somewhat unfortunate thing is we see rosters like this a lot in the NFL where they're very talented, they look like they have a good coaching staff, and they look like they have a great infrastructure around, but they still just for some reason are doomed to go 7-10 or 8-9 or 9-8. For some reason it happens year after year after year. And this could be the case for the Arizona Cardinals. And so that's kind of why I like I said, I think a floor for this team is probably 7-10. They're still so talented. in terms of the amount of really good veteran presence guys that they have, the amount of first round picks that they have, the amount of players that they have invested high draft capital into on both the offense and defense. This should be a team that's competing for a playoff spot. But again, we just always have these teams where they look as good as the Cardinals do, if not even better, and they still fall short of expectations.